in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you. In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Good evening, and welcome to Gameweek 10 Sunday Surgery, where of course you're joined by myself and Jason, where we will be reflecting on this weekend's games, and more importantly today's games, because we had a wonderful day of football this afternoon. We all watched it live unfold with myself in a wonderful stream. I'm not going to blow smoke at my backside, but I really did enjoy doing the stream earlier on. It was absolutely fantastic. What I will say is that just like last night, thanks to Jason, we are not only live on YouTube as per normal, but also we are on Twitch and Mixer.
We are.
So for anybody that's on Twitch and Mixer, hello there, welcome. I'm Steve-O. You won't know who I am, but I am the co-host of Elite FPL. Jason, of course, we all know he was there Yes, good evening. Good evening, Jason, and good evening, everybody. And by the way, get your calls in. I want to hear people with scores less than me. I can't be bothered to be talking to anybody with Jamie Vardy, waste of time, because you're just going to do the usual line of, I just felt like captaining him. I don't care. That isn't a reason why you captain him.
It's fine. They can gloat. They gloated last night.
No. Just let me say this. People that have captained Vardy, I want to hear a legitimate reason why you've captained him. I don't want to hear any of this. I just forgot. I forgot I had it on. That's not a reasoning. Don't give me the BS. I want to hear the reasoning as to why, especially the players that have got the Man City assets and Liverpool assets, because they were pretty much the best assets to captain, and you went with Jamie Vardy. I'd love to know why. So people, if you're coming on air, I want to hear proper answers, not just excuses. But anyway,
if you are coming on air tonight, you guys are going to be treated to a new addition to the channel. I'm keeping an eye on my CPU. If there's any danger of there being any cold drafts, or if any danger of us having a cool winter, then I don't have to worry about it, because my computer is running at quite a high temperature of 80% CPU, and I'm probably going to have to invest in a new streaming PC this winter. So putting that support into that channel. We say we're always going to improve it. This is one of the things that we're going to do to improve the channel, and that's just to improve our equipment. Because to be honest with you, I've got so many ideas with this stream on where I would like to take it, and so many additions I want to add. There's only so much my computer can do, and even though it's a decent computer, I'm probably going to have to upgrade it. So anyway, you'll notice that when we get a caller on, we get our first caller on, you'll notice what I've done. But yeah, hello to Marshall Matters, Romello Naldo. I upload anything, 11. Vish, Lawrence Joe, we've got Greasy Trumpet, Alpha 9. We've got Kendhi Williams. We've got Chaban and Dereco watching us live on Twitch at the moment. We've got FPL Penguin. We've got Chelsea Flyer, Aman Dillon. We've got Robert Dinsmore, Shane O. King Connolly. In chat, we've got Angus Gordon, Pidy Pa. We've got Paul J, Vish, Anurag's in chat. Faraz is in chat, 2K20. And Seb Fox is there as well. And many more of you guys. Much appreciated you joining us on this Sunday Sergey episode. Will there be many teams that we speak to this evening that have had worse game weeks than us, Steve-O?
Well, there'll be definitely nobody that has had more luck than you, but we'll come on to that in a minute. I imagine there are people that have had a worse game week than me, but I very, very much doubt it indeed. Apparently your audio is very, very loud.
My audio's... Oh, is it really? Oh, I do apologise. Let me turn it down a bit more then. Hang on. How about now? Is that a bit better, guys? Let me know if that's better. I do apologise for that audio being really loud. 1 2 testing 1 2 3. I think I've sorted it. That should be right now. Right. Okay. So let's move on to this game week. Let's get the scores up on the screen. I know you kind of covered the games today. How do you feel today went, Steve-O? If you could sum it up in one sentence. This today's games.
Differential.
Right.
I the one thing that sticks out in my mind when I instantly look at it is the Man United 3, Norwich 1, not because of the result, but of what happened in the game. And I think it sums up that specific game, what happened in it just sums up not just this season overall, but mainly my season in a way, in the sense of what's happened to FPL Boona, where Boona has gone, and one of our, for anybody that's watching this brand new, doesn't have a clue who I'm talking about, FPL Boona is one of our hardcore Elite FPL followers, and he brought in for a -8 Martial and Rashford. Well, we all know what happened today. Martial and Rashford had both their penalties saved. They did score, and Rashford did get an assist, but how much more could have they got if it wasn't for those 2 penalty saves? And people are making the right decisions, like myself, and it just isn't paying off. And I think today's games, I think, summed up, in my case, my season so far. Newcastle won, Wolves won. Admittedly, not many people had assets. I thought it would end 0-0. And The Lascelles with a goal, Fernandes with an assist, and it was Johnny for Wolves. No assist credited for that particular goal. But again, I wouldn't have expected much from this game, to be honest with you. So I'm not really bothered that, say, Jimenez blanked or anything. I don't think it's that much of a shock. But when we move on to Arsenal 2, Crystal Palace 2, you see the goal scorers: Socrates, David Luiz, Lacazette with an assist, Xhaka with an assist, and obviously Socrates had a goal ruled off by VAR. You just cannot make this up. And there's a lot of Aubameyang owners out there which are scratching their heads thinking, do we get rid of him now? I believe it's 3 game weeks in a row that he's blanked. It's 11 million or 11.1 million, depending on what you got him in at. It's just awful. Then you've got Milivojevic and Ayew with the goals for Crystal Palace, and Zaha and McCarthy with the assist. Moving on to the Liverpool game, Salah turning up again, getting a penalty. Mane with the getting the penalty, and Salah converting it. Henderson providing the first goal after Kane had scored, and Son with the assist. And then finally, like we've just mentioned, Norwich, this extraordinary Norwich game. Man United winning 3-1. Martial, Rashford and McTominay with the goals. Daniel James, Rashford with the assist there. Norwich, Hernandez with the goal there. Like I said, you can predict the score lines, which is what I seem to be doing. I seem to be predicting the outcomes all right. In fact, I actually said on the stream earlier on that I predicted Arsenal to win 3-1, but then I changed my mind and I put it as 1-1. And it's come out, and I just find it really frustrating that if I was to put bets, just a £1 bet per scoreline each week, I'd be in with a lot of money at the moment. And fantasy football can go out the window, but it just seems to be really, really frustrating that I can seem to predict games, but I can't actually get anything from fantasy football. You made the point yesterday regarding your captaincy picks. One of them that sticks out is when Chelsea beat Newcastle 1-0, you captain Abraham.
Yeah.
You know, people are expecting 2, maybe 3 goals in that game. Abraham gets nothing. There's another situation regarding Aubameyang against Bournemouth. Who scored? Was it David Luiz against Bournemouth, who all of a sudden, since you've brought in Ramsdale, have put up some defensive resilience.
It was, Pepe with the assist.
1 goal in 3.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely mad.
Yeah.
And like I said, for people like FPL Booner today, who did a -8 to bring in Martial and Rashford, well, in theory, it paid off, but my goodness, how much more it would have paid off. And I joked on the stream. I said, as a rival, I'm kind of happy this has happened, but from a genuine perspective, I'm actually gutted for him. I feel sorry for the guy, to be honest with you, because it's a move that in theory has paid off, but it didn't. I know that sounds really, really weird to say, but it's just the truth. And I'm just finding, me personally, this season's really just getting on my nerves. I'm just getting really bored of it. I'm just getting really bored of the fact that anything like I seem to do is just backfiring on me. It doesn't matter how logical the moves I make or the captaincy decisions I make, don't matter how logical they are, they backfire. Yesterday, for example, we had don't get me wrong, I mean, the David Silva goal, it stood because David Silva touched the ball. I haven't got a problem with that. It's just so frustrating that someone like yourself brings in David Silva, and I did predict he'd score, but when you hear the circumstances as to how that goal came about, it's just like, so Mendy gets an assist for Kevin De Bruyne originally. He then would have got 3 bonus points, or 2 bonus points at most, and then after about an hour, it's then completely reversed, where David Silva gets the goal, Mendy loses his assist, obviously, he loses his bonus points, and then it's just mental. And then, of course, in the Watford Bournemouth game, be honest, Jason, when you brought in Ramsdale, be honest here, you just did it not as a joke, but you just did it because it's just like, well, he's the only player I could bring in. You wouldn't have had Ramsdale, let's be honest.
I didn't have enough. I would have gone for Ryan, but I didn't have enough money, so I went for Ramsdale.
You went for the cheapest option. And
cheaper option. I mean, could have gone with Gazzaniga.
2 clean sheets. It's absolutely crazy. Bournemouth,
Yeah,
a joke.
I've been lucky. I've been lucky there.
Defending, keeps 2 clean sheets and concedes 1 goal against Arsenal. Absolutely crazy. And it is just playing this game at the moment is just highly, highly frustrating. And especially, I mean, you made that point last night on your wonderful stream about when you're doing podcasts or streaming or whatever you want to flaming call it, regarding our emotions when it comes to playing this game and everything. And it's just so difficult when you have to talk about it as well. And your decisions are being made literally live on air. And they just completely backfire. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Like I said, if anybody else has got any sob stories, come live on air. By all means, get into that Discord.
We're taking calls tonight. We're taking calls tonight in Discord. I'm looking forward to hearing some of you guys talk about your teams this weekend. We're looking forward to speaking to people that maybe have been very unlucky, like Steve-O this weekend, who've come out the other end with a very disappointing score. Obviously, I think the majority of people, after that result on Friday night, if you didn't own 1 or 2 Leicester assets, you were always going to be at a disadvantage anyway, purely because of the ridiculous score, the point hauls that Vardy, Perez, Chilwell got. And I think all of us were just kind of like hoping that we would be able to kind of catch them up, but it hasn't really happened. Fair play to those people that captained Sterling. Obviously, commiserations to those people who captained Aguero, and to a lesser extent De Bruyne. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some calls on. I mean, I think I've been let off the hook really big time this weekend. I wasn't expecting a Bournemouth clean sheet, I'll be honest with you. Especially getting Rico off the bench for Matip is also a bit of a bonus. But
that's another thing. You've got to be honest with us.
Yeah.
Your luck in this game.
Your
luck in this game is. This isn't just from this season. We're talking. This stems from last season as well.
Well, I got a bit of luck. Yeah. I mean, I've had some bad luck with my captaincy picks, but I've had some good luck off my bench this season. But the luck I've had hasn't made up for the points that I've lost out on, I'm sure. I mean, 5 points from Rico, 8 points from Ramsdale. That's, just what more could I possibly ask for?
And also, of course, in the Burnley-Chelsea game, it was a wonderful moment. I know that you and Phil were talking about last night, the point where Hudson-Odoi was fouled in the penalty area. I'm thinking, you know what, at least he got an assist.
My differential.
And then literally like that, it gets turned around to VAR decision and he gets a yellow card for diving. That for me sums up my luck, whereas in your case, it's, Matip doesn't start for Liverpool, so you get Rico off the bench.
I think it compounds your frustration when you see like me taking hits as well, like a minus 16, a -4, another -4, and you think, well, how many hits can he take before I start really catching up, breathing down his neck, and then overtaking him? And like, I saw it like this week when you saw I took a hit, and you thought this could be the time I catch you up. And
no, I don't think that. I just think that in this specific case, I would never have got rid of Son for Hudson-Odoi for a hit. That I just think it's such a pointless.
And then then I dropped Hudson-Odoi and played David Silva. I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But there's gonna be another bit of drama, I'm sure. Come the Thursday preview. If Aguero plays Tuesday, then I'm gonna have to think about swapping him out. But anyway, let's not make it about our teams. People know about our teams. Let's speak to a few of the guys in the community, and let's bring on Bang, who I believe is coming all the way from Hong Kong. Bang. Hang on 1 second. I'll mute myself.
Apparently you need to turn up my audio. It's very quiet.
Can you turn your audio up?
Me?
I'll try and turn him up. Right, guys, let me know if this is any better. Steve-O, talk.
I can't be bothered to speak. Turn me up. Is that any good, everybody?
Is that better, guys? Is that better?
We want to hear your sob stories. don't want to be hearing about people that got 120,000 points.
Right. Hopefully that's a bit better.
Right, yeah, let's bring on James Bang all the way from Hong Kong. Extraordinary. It's probably about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 1 second. James Bang, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear
Wow,
me?
there he is.
Hi, James.
Well, an honour.
Hey, Steve-O, Jason, thanks for having me on.
No, thank you for joining us. This is more of a pleasure from us than us to you.
Yeah, it's 4 in the morning here. I stayed up just for this.
Can you? This is going to sound so weird, but what? I'll ask you the first question. What makes you tune into us so early in the morning? What is this passion for Elite FPL?
So I really took fantasy seriously this year, and after discovering your channel, it just made it that much more enjoyable. And it's just something, and the situation in Hong Kong right now is not very good, but this just gets that off my mind, and it's just a really enjoyable experience.
And of course, it doesn't help for me anyway, but it helps you the fact that this week you're on 61 points, captaining De Bruyne. I mean, like I said, you must be loving. Well, I say loving life at the moment. It's a nice score and everything, but
I was loving life yesterday. Thought I'd have a better week with Aubameyang and TAA to play, but they only got us 3 points, so it kind of brought me back down to earth today.
What are you thinking of doing with Aubameyang and even Trent Alexander-Arnold after today, especially Aubameyang?
So I've kind of I've had 2 free transfers, so I kind of went into a bit of a rage transfer tonight and got rid of 2 players, McGinn and Wilson, and brought in Connolly and Martial, because I saw a stat that Martial, when he's in the United side under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they win 77% of their games versus 29% without Martial.
You're apparently muted, Jason.
There we go. That's because I was listening back to the stream to make sure that your audio was at the right level. There we go, chat. There we go. No, Martial is going to be back on the radar, I'm sure, for a lot of FPL managers looking to switch things up in midfield. He does give that attacking threat for United that we've been lacking. Dan James as well. In that front three, I think that then that United can kind of turn it around. And I'm not gonna advocate anyone bringing in Man United players just yet. It's a wait and see for me. They haven't proved that they are reliable enough. You should be able to hear things now. Jerry. But yeah, pleasure to have you on, James. Anyway, from Hong Kong, and let me just get your team up on air because I haven't done that yet. Have you posted it in the Discord? You have, haven't you?
Yeah, it's there, Jason. It's in the team.
Which one is it? This week's team. Have you done your transfers already?
I have. So I've posted a team before the transfers and after.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Let me bring this up then. Bear with me one moment.
So Connolly would be a first teamer, despite the fact that Trossard has come back. You're not worried about the fact that Connolly maybe dropped now?
Versus Norwich, I'd give him a shot and got Yarmolenko off the bench just in case he's dropped.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
At home to Newcastle.
Whereabouts are you ranked at the moment?
Not very good, actually. So I've 2.5 million, but I am where I want to be because I've got a team value of 104.5 million. So it's kind of like taking the patient approach, like a horse. Starting off in the middle of the pack and then making my way up. We're using that team value advantage.
Yeah.
Right, I've got your team. I've got your team up now on the screen. So this is the team you had. You got 61 points. Let me just scroll down for the guys watching on the stream. So 61 points. You got points coming in from De Bruyne, Sterling, De Bruyne being your captain, Abraham, Yarmolenko, Soyuncu, and Edison with 9 points. And obviously today, Alexander Arnold picking up the yellow card you'll be frustrated about. 1 point from him, 1 point from Tamari. Callum Wilson again, disappointing. So you've done your transfers. And sorry, can you say again what your transfers were?
So Callum Wilson and McGinn out for Martial and Connolly, and 1.7 still in the bank.
Let's bring it in. Martial and Connolly. You know what? 1.7 in the bank. What are you planning to do with that 1.7?
So I've got a long-term plan to downgrade Edison to Gazaniga after seeing his performance tonight, and downgrading Aubameyang to Vardy, which will allow me to upgrade Yarmolenko to Mane.
Interesting. I like that. I like that thought process. Steven?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's a fantastic move. Aubameyang, I'm sorry, but for me, if a premium striker just isn't bringing in the returns, you've got to get him gone. It's a bit like me with Aguero.
I brought in Aubameyang and Callum Wilson, and they blanked the next 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, it's the same with me. You do all the right transfers and everything, and it just completely backfires, and it's just absolutely very, very frustrating. A random question, but obviously you're clearly a fan of the show and everything. How do you actually view us? What, is it a laptop, a iPad, TV?
So I used to watch it on one cell phone, but since I'm trying to get you guys to 3,000 subscribers, I've got my wife's phone, Hermin, and I've subscribed on her phone as well. So I'm watching you guys on one phone and using the Discord on the other.
But your wife doesn't watch our channel, right?
No, she doesn't. But she does know when Eyes in the Sky comes on, she leaves me alone for the next few hours, and my daughter knows that's a song for bedtime.
All right.
It is a catchy song. We always get people asking, "What song's that? What song's that?" But it is actually in the actual intro on the right hand side. It does name the song. It's quite subtle, but no. I like your transfers, and I like the fact you freed up some money. I like your idea about bringing Marnie in as well. But obviously, the people in chat are talking about Lacazette as well as being a nice differential. Callum Wilson. Obviously, I've got him in my team. Am I thinking about getting him out? Damn straight I am, and I think that I tell you what, I think you made really decisive transfers here. You're getting ahead of time. I like Connolly, I really do. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to be a massive asset for Brighton going forward. And Martial, I mean, he's back now. He's proven that he's got goals in him, and I respect you for bringing him in. So yeah, well done on that, James.
Thank you. And any chance you bring James back in?
Oh, me, Dan James? No, not getting him back in.
Hasn't he got, in all seriousness, 2 assists since you got rid of him, Jason?
Yep. Yeah,
Of
course he has. And then, of course, I mean, Son got an assist as well. Yeah, it just seems that, it's just the way the season kind of been. It's like, I keep saying it. It's because of Aguero that I've kind of like, I did that wild card. And then the irony is Aguero, I mean, he's kind of now in this position where you just don't know whether he's starting. You don't know how many minutes he's going to play, if he's going to play any minutes. And if he does, it's going to be 1 point. It's like it's a really awkward position to be in, owning Aguero. So, yeah, all eyes are on Tuesday. All eyes on Tuesday night. But you haven't got that problem, James. You've made decisions. You've got a strong team. You've got a team of people that are going to play minutes, and that's what is important in FPL. Going to play minutes, and they're going to be in points, FPL points. So yeah, I like your transfers.
Thank you, but Steve-O's right. It's just been one of those seasons where you do everything right. I brought in, Son before for that Norwich fixture. He was benched. It's just one of those seasons that when you make all the right moves that you think is correct, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah. I know, and I go back each week and I look at my team and I think, was it really a bad team? And honestly, 9 times out of 10, I'm more than happy with my team and I'm more than confident with my team. But it's just the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it? At the end of the day. But yeah, James, I I thank you ever so much for coming on and sharing with us your game week score. That you're just, and even more importantly, talking to us about your transfers, because I think they're great.
Oh, thank you, and look forward to the donuts next week.
Yeah.
Apparently Krispy Kreme deliver donuts, Steve-O. I found out that I can get Krispy Kreme donuts delivered to my house. But the thing is, do I go with a standard glazing or do I go that fancy Halloween ice?
With the flavoured.
Oh my God, really? I don't know if I could do that. I think I would be sick. I'm going to
send over a £10 contribution towards your donuts next week.
I think I would actually be sick on stream. Because it's a big day. It's a big stream. Like Saturday is like, how many games? Is there 8 games on? 6.
3 o'clock, yeah.
6 at 3, right? Okay, so 8 in total.
Yeah.
But yeah, well,
you're on your own next week, right?
I am.
That should mean goals.
Yeah. Last time I was on my own, it was a bit of a goal fest. Steve had a bit of a one today, but yeah, that Harry Kane one. You hardly got the point across. Oh yeah, I'm going to be eating donut whenever goal, Harry Kane. Oh, right, here we go. Then boom, I've got to eat a donut. Sorry, a muffin, whatever it was. But yeah, James, I look forward to seeing you next week, and
thank you. And I
hopefully,
just wanted to add that what makes you guys so great to watch is, usually. When you watch a game on the telly, you got one game, or if you go to the pub, there's multiple screens. But you just don't get that interactive, feeling, and it's just that community feel that just makes it that much more enjoyable. It's crazy that it's more fun to me than watching a live game, just to follow everyone in the chat and your streams. So I think this is the future, and love what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to see where this goes.
I'm in complete agreement with you. I think that we wouldn't sit in front of a laptop or in front of a computer for 3 hours or 2-3 hours. I mean, the other week we did like a whole day of streaming on and off, and we wouldn't do that if we didn't enjoy the community. If we didn't have this community, we wouldn't have the drive to do that. And honestly, it's just you guys that the chat, the emotion of the FPL game itself, and just the love of the game, and it's great.
The missus thinks I'm nuts. She's like, "Why are you just watching some guy chat?" I'm like, "You don't understand. It's much more than that."
The thing for me, in all seriousness, is that this is just from my perspective, is that I deliberately listen to us back on a replay just for research purposes, but I honestly get entertained by our own streams because we do get across our emotions. I'm not going to name them, but there are people, Steve-O, very quickly while you're talking about this point, but there are people that have got a bit of a sadistic nature in them. They enjoy watching us suffer as well, because let's be honest, we have gone through our fair share of suffering over recent weeks. But sorry, Steve-O, carry on. No, I was just going to say that I've seen some streamers during live games, and I'm just thinking, someone's just scored a goal, and there is just nothing coming from you. And I mentioned this point on the show earlier on, that way before we were even on YouTube, and I watched the odd streamer here or there, I was like, surely these guys must do live games during the match or whatever, because I've said this I've been doing this job. I've been doing this for years, for like 10 years. And by the way, James, make sure you tune into our anniversary show next week, Friday. But anyway, I've been doing this now for 10 years, bringing people fantasy football content. Back in the day, it was through email. Then it went on to Facebook, and then it moved on to what we're doing now, YouTube. I would do reports. I would do the conclusions from the game week. I wish I could have done like live stuff, but I couldn't during games or anything. And then you fast forward, a couple of years, and we're literally doing it live to an audience. And I'm telling you now, as you've just mentioned, the future for us is huge because, like I said, we get our personalities. This is me. This is no BS. This is me. This is how I react when I'm at work and someone will be like, Man City have just scored. Who scored? it was I don't know, Fernandinho. Who got the assist? It was Cancelo. Oh, and they'd look at
And
me
that
like, what's the matter?
authenticity comes across, which makes it that much more amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like I said, I don't understand why, and I'm glad that no other site does this. I don't get it. There's a huge... Dave the FPL made this point on our show. He said that there's a market out there of 6 million people that play the game. And even if you were to take 10% of that, so 600,000, that take this game seriously, there is 600,000 people out there that want this content, but it's just not available. And the more we get our name out there, people like yourself are just going to be more and more embraced with the content that we're bringing. And what we try and do, me and Jason, is the reason why we bring this community together, or a community in general, is because it's more enjoyable. There's no point in me and Jason talking to each other. After a while, it's just like, what do you want to talk about? It just gets a bit stale. Whereas when you just involve the community, look at their teams and work out, why have you done this? Why have you done that? Who are you thinking of transferring? It just makes the whole show a lot more enjoyable and interesting.
This show isn't about me and you, Stevie. That's the thing. We provide a platform for people to just give their voice and opinion and start a conversation. It's always been about starting a conversation. And yeah, we are in a cash league. We take it really...
It's the interactivity.
We're in a cash league. We take it really seriously. This year, lots of you guys, loyal supporters of the show are part of that cash league too. And it's just the rivalry that's sparking between the community members. It just fuels great content. And,
we got a chat, super chat, Jason, from the Cape FPL. Thank you, pal.
Oh, thank you.
That. He says, great achievement. Content and graphics are excellent. Cheers, dude. You didn't have to, but thank you for the...
That's much appreciated. Thank you ever so much for that.
Donation.
And on your point, Steve, it really is surprising that there is literally no content out there on the weekends from anyone else except for you guys.
The one that I've said, this isn't me saying this with hindsight. I have said this for about 4 years. I have said that at some point in the future, Soccer Saturday, the real one on Sky, they will be broadcasting something that we do, but in, like you've just mentioned, in pubs, and people will be going and finding out how like the overall rankings are affecting and stuff. The difference with us is that we're doing it on a private basis with people that are in our Cash Mini League, and because of that, people feel more invested in what we're doing. But I can see very, very soon it happening on TV. But the question is when. And
like in America, what they do with the NFL.
I've never understood why nobody's tapped into the market.
It's coming.
Doing some form.
It's coming. It's coming. It'll be with us.
Yeah, it'll be us.
It'll be us.
Oh yeah, it'll be us.
That's a big statement. I mean, I'd love it if it was, but I'm just enjoying the ride as it is at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, James, thank you ever so much for being on with us this evening, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate it, and then really enjoy the stream.
Cheers.
Take care.
Cheers, James. Thank you. Right, well, we're gonna put a deposit down on a big studio and have we'll have the guests sitting down in the booth with us. Right, let's bring in Statman FC. Statman FC, good evening. You're on the FPL Sunday Surgery, the Elite FPL Sunday Surgery, with myself and Steve. How are you doing tonight?
Your lads all good?
Ian and Mark. Sorry, 1 second. Ian Manley.
Beautiful comment.
I've only been following you guys a short time, but you guys have become my favourite stream. I don't bother with other streams. That just means like that's just amazing. Thank you for those kind words. I mean, we have been on a bit of a mission to just kind of improve and to just basically just we're giving it our all, aren't we, Steve-O? We are giving it all.
Yeah, we want to improve the experience for everybody watching. That is the truth. We want to improve the experience for everybody for watching, and also try and get as many people involved as we can with this, because we want to try and make the rivalries a lot more. I mean, I'll give you an example. Show Me the Mane, who is live now. Hello there. He's in chat at the moment, who's doing so well. But I personally think now, this is no disrespect to anybody in the mini league, but it's Show Me the Mane's cocky attitude where he's coming and he's like that to everybody. And if you're listening on audio, I'm sticking a middle finger up. He's like, you know what? Stuff the lot of you. I'm winning this mini league. And that's annoyed me. And I'm thinking, I may be 300,000 points behind you.
But I'm going to do everything I can in my power to catch you and literally I will find you.
But
and I will kill you.
Yeah, it's the truth. There's not many people in our cash mini league that kind of talk about it. I mean, we've got Statman on the line now, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But
sorry, Statman. Where's he gone? Come back, Statman. Sorry, we do want to talk to you, Statman. Come back in the waiting room.
There's not many people in the cash mini league that come live on air or even talk in chat and actually talk about the mini league. And Show Me the Mane does. And I really do respect that, and it just creates a bit more of a rivalry. Because even like last year when we were doing it with the Torbay Elite group, for example, it was only between me, you, and Dan that speak about it. And we talk about, say, Connor Lee and Ben Towler and stuff.
No, people don't know who that is. Yeah.
But the problem is that they had no response to us. They didn't even watch any of our content, and yet now we've got Show Me the Mane basically going, stuff the lot of you, I'm winning this.
Yeah.
And you've got people like Marlon Moore, Ian Rose, Mr. Anderson, Andrew Fong, Charlie, flaming out with him. Tell him, ask him why he's got Willian in his team, why on earth he's gone with Vardy captain and stuff. He comes up with such fantastic arguments. No one responds. And I want people to kind of create this cash mini league where it's like, oh my God, this is pretty serious actually. This is actually like, wow, this is the main importance of the show, and this is what this community is being built around, of this rivalry between like the top four. So that's what it is. The cash spots are the top four, and then at the moment, Show Me the Mane is there, number one, Marlon Moore second, Ian Rose third, and Mr. Anderson fourth. And now there's actually a bit of a gap between fourth and fifth.
There is a bit of a gap forming. There is. People asking in chat, what's the overall average? Overall average is going to be 49.4. And then the top 10k, the top 10k average is 55.27. I've finished the game week on 45 points, so I'm 4.4 points down on the overall average, so I'm below average. There you go.
And is Kev there now?
I'll have a quick look. Sorry, I was just looking at that. He is. Statman, guys, if you want to come on, we've only got Statman here. Come and join us in the waiting room on Discord. Be a voice. Come on the show, guys. I know there are people out there, Abdul, other people that we spoke in the hangouts earlier on. Get yourself on air. Hello, Statman. Can you hear me?
I can. You were coming through my phone and not my headset, so I just had to log off. But we're good now. How's it going?
Yeah.
Well, you've had a disaster of a game week. Thank God. I mean, number one, how are you planning on getting into those top four places, Kev?
Oh, at the minute, I haven't got a clue. I'm just trying to keep on the first page of the Cash League, to be honest, which I think I'll be out of now. But I'm not sure. It's like you spoke about on previous streams. It's trying to beat the curve, isn't it? It's trying to guess the moves. Because now I'm following suit. I feel like.
Where's he gone? Where's he gone? He's just gone. I got Dan Bull in the hangout. Should we just drag him in? Dan, are you there?
Goody.
Oh God, he tried to talk and he left as well.
Is there a problem with Discord?
I don't think there's a problem with Discord. But join the waiting room if you're listening in on the stream. Join the waiting room. We'll pull you into the on-air channel, and I'm hoping that Statman comes back because I want to talk to him about his team. He's had a dreadful game week.
Yeah, I just want to call out. I've just mentioned it in the chat, but Usama Really appreciate the comment there. He's been with us since like 10 or 20 subscribers. He doesn't watch every single stream, but it just feels great seeing us succeed. Thank you. It's down to people like yourself.
Thank you, Sama. Thank you. Dan, we've got you back in. Are you there?
Yes, mate. How's it going?
Oh, you've got your Instagram filter on your team again. What's going on with that?
Before we talk that, let's talk seriously. Let's talk Arsenal. What happened today, Dan? The statistics for that game came through. Crystal Palace always seem to score twice against you. What happened?
Pressing. I don't know. I mean, went 2-0 up really early, and I just thought, this will be a nice, easy game. And it's just there's many things going on. I mean, obviously Xhaka's not very popular, and apparently he swore at the fans when he went off or something because they were really happy there, and apparently told him to F off. Obviously, I won't repeat what he said because I know your channel's a family-friendly channel. But
I think they can work out what he said.
You can work out. And then obviously Ozil's not even in the squad. Just like on the Europa League and Carabao Cup games, he's not even like on the bench. But I think mainly I think it's just the midfield doesn't protect the defence enough, and that's a big problem. For some reason, Torreira doesn't seem to be playing, and without him, there's no real protection. But then when he does play Torreira, he plays him like in a number 10 role. So it's all a bit weird, really. But,
the biggest,
yeah.
Show me the Mane saying, was DT in the crowd trying to fight him?
I mean, DT likes Xhaka actually, but what was I going to say? I think that's a big thing, that the lack of protection, and Arsenal haven't played well for quite a few games now, really, and it's frustrating being an Aubameyang owner as well. It's just I was
going to say, Dan, the audience are all going to want to know this. What on earth is going with Aubameyang? Do we get rid of him? Do we keep him? Do we get in Lacazette as coverage instead? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Aubameyang was quiet today, but he didn't have a great deal of service. To be honest with you, he was quite isolated a lot of the game. Lacazette still trying to get back to match fitness, and I think maybe hot because we've got Wolves at home next week. That'll be a tricky game. But Aubameyang's form at home is generally pretty good. But then, like, what was it, Monday? He didn't have loads of chances, and against Bournemouth, he was isolated. It's tough because obviously he's such, he's 11 million, wow. 11.1, and it's such a big. I mean, particularly for my team, I've invested so much in my premium front two. Obviously, Vardy's paying off, but Aubameyang I do get to the point where I look at my team and I'm like, I've just reverted back to type. I've reverted back to a basically an Asda.
You got a Christmas tree formation, mate.
I like the Christmas. I always like that on Champ Manager.
It's very, very fitting. No, but what are you going to do about Aubameyang? What are you going to do? Are you sticking or are you twisting?
I think I'll stick for now. I mean, I've got 1.1 million in the bank, so before
you continue, Dan, I've got to say you're doing very, very well in the Cash Mini League. 36th, excellent rank, mate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's decent. I mean, obviously, mainly it was because of Vardy and Sterling. But yeah, generally, I mean, Rico. Obviously, when I was on the pod last season, I had Rico in, and that was much of a kind of a little ongoing joke. And
well, I said to you last year, didn't I, about Rico? I said, Dan, mate, get in Rico, and you're like, yeah, and then he never played. And then this year, it's his breakthrough season.
He's doing well. I mean, I watched the highlights against Watford, and he had a shot from long range. He's on corners, occasionally on free kicks, and he's popped up with a few assists this season. I wasn't expecting a clean sheet from him or from Bournemouth, but he's 4.2 million, creating a little bit. I mean, it's not bad. And as I look at my defence, the only thing I think is I wish I got Siunchu, however it is you said, instead of Tomori. Because I was speaking to someone earlier about it. She's like, oh yeah, why did he get Tomori? And I was like, well, he's cheap and, he got some good hauls earlier in the season. But it's so annoying because I was watching the highlights and I was like, Chelsea are 4-0 up. and obviously I didn't know the score.
Yeah, cruising.
Cruising without a bruising, and then 2 goals from Burnley late on, and Tomori, is it like 1 point or something, and also the whole Hudson-Odoi thing. I think Loughton pushed Hudson-Odoi.
You
so
did,
that should
yeah.
have been a penalty.
Well,
So-
yeah. Well, fortunately, Loughton is firmly on my bench. No, but in all seriousness, keep an hold of Aubameyang. I mean, you've got him in your team now. It's not very easy to get him out and then spread that money out either.
Yeah, that's the thing with it, really. I was thinking, obviously, I've still got Cantwell on my team. I think I need to upgrade him. Really.
Yeah, you've hung on to him, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I mean, I took McGinn out, and McGinn nearly scored yesterday, but I think Hudson-Odoi will pay off in the long term. Obviously, Rico paid off straight away, but took out Otamendi, he didn't play. Took out McGinn, obviously, he didn't score. So I think the transfers kind of made sense. I think they were fine. I think Hudson-Odoi, even if he comes on off the bench, like he is an explosive player that can take on a player, create an assist, win a penalty, do some damage. So, but Pulisic now,
It's a bit early to jump on Pulisic. We got the Don in chat saying, "I'm a Chelsea fan. I'd say don't jump on him yet." I mean, he's got the potential to be something really great, but he's not consistent enough to be ahead of other Chelsea players in my mind. If you were going to go for Chelsea, I would probably.
Yeah, he only had a week break in the summer, and obviously played a lot for the USA in the Gold Cup and that, and Lampard was sort of trying to manage his minutes and whatnot. And I remember thinking pre-season, I remember coming on the pod and saying, "Oh, Pulisic, what about him at 7.5?" And it does create a bit of a dilemma now, because obviously Hudson-Odoi is going to be looking over his shoulder thinking, "God, like, Pulisic and that." Chelsea are looking pretty good because they're flowing. They're playing with that's the thing with Arsenal. We don't have an identity at the moment, whereas Chelsea are kind of seem to have a plan, and they seem to have play with a bit of freedom.
That's it. I don't think that Emery has a plan, Dan. I asked you a couple of weeks ago, what's Emery's game plan? It's just there's hope for the best with Aubameyang. That's pretty much it. It's just, but I mean, anyway.
It's Aubameyang, Lacazette. The thing that frustrates me the most, I won't say this again, but it's the whole, Ozil's not playing, Mkhitaryan's in Roma, and yet we let Ramsey go and not use that money to give him a new contract. So I don't know. I've just got the PSG Marseille game on for a little bit to kind of forget about.
Yeah, try and forget about it. Well, it looks like United are going to come and overtake you, mate. So it's all right. Our bet's still on. Our bet's still on. Don't worry.
Just scored a 4th goal now, but it's still on. It's still early. I mean, United looked good today. Martial makes a big difference, doesn't he? That's a massive difference. Can I try and convince you not to put the sepia filter on your screenshots in future? I'll do it just for you, mate, but I do like the old filters.
What is it? We can't hardly see it. The chat can hardly see that. Anyway, they're having to strain to kind of make out what players are what. But anyway. No worries, Dan. We'll look forward to. We'll speak to you soon, mate. We'll look forward to the anniversary stream.
Yeah, see you Friday, mate.
Cheers, Dan. Take care, buddy. We've got Stein in the waiting room. We've got some people in chat as well.
On. Christ, he's having a blinking brilliant game week, and I'm going to ask him one question.
Right,
once we get him.
Stein. Good evening, Stein. How you doing?
Not too bad, Jason. Not too bad. I've had a stellar week.
Stein,
how's you doing?
question is this.
Sorry?
Why did you captain Jamie Vardy when you've got
Yes, indeed,
De Bruyne,
Steve-o.
Salah, Abraham?
Hang on. Stein, whereabouts are you in the Kashmir League?
20th.
20th, yeah.
Right, here we go.
But,
right, let rip, Steve-o. Go on.
Yeah. Why Vardy? Why Vardy captain?
This week, because he was playing Southampton. It's just as simple as that. And he, if I remember...
That's not an answer.
Sorry?
What's wrong with Southampton?
They've got a very poor defence, and I think it was shut. Everyone saw it on Friday. So yeah.
I
I was not going to captain Salah against Tottenham. No way. I wasn't going to captain Kane. That left me with Abrahams as a choice, Mount or Vardy.
Or De Bruyne.
Yeah, or De Bruyne, but De Bruyne was away from home, I think.
No, he was at home.
Was he at home?
He was at home.
Yeah.
Oh well, no.
Why?
I think I had.
Were you kind of?
I had
Were
De
you?
Bruyne as vice.
Yeah, but were you always like 100% confident on Vardy, or were you switching your captaincies?
No. It was always going to be Vardy, and the decision was made because he was facing Southampton, a really terrible defence. And I thought Vardy would score. I had no idea he'd score a hat-trick or Leicester would get 9. But, I thought Vardy could get a goal and maybe an assist.
Well, they could have got more goals than 9. They could have.
Yeah,
Leicester,
really shocking that. I mean,
I thought a record was going to get broken on Friday night. I really did.
Yeah, I mean, they were unbelievable, really unbelievable. I mean, I watched that game and it was jaw-dropping.
Gone. A bunch of clowns.
But here's the thing, Steve-O. You're playing against a team and you are actually doing your best. Your best is actually rubbish today, but you're doing your best. And then when you're playing against a team that you think they can't play this well or they can't keep it up, surely, and they get better and better as the 90 minutes go on, I think they just lost heart, really, And I can't blame them because Leicester were outstanding. They really were outstanding. Unbelievable.
I think they would have made even Man United look pretty world class, though, Southampton, in that performance. But no, fair enough. You're right. And it was a bit of both, in my opinion. It was a bit of both. Leicester, Tielemans, Maddison, Vardy. I mean, they were pretty much undoing Southampton, and it was like men v boys basically.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, Southampton on any other day playing against someone else, that performance would have been 6/7. Against Leicester on that day, it was like 3/2. What can you say? Leicester were just outstanding. And I think here's the funny thing. I think if they play anyone in that form, they'll beat them. Man United, Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea, they will.
Did you watch any of the games today?
I didn't know. I was out all day, so I didn't see any of the games. I just picked up the results by text. But,
what did you think? What did you think of the results? And were you surprised that United getting 3 goals, for example, away from it?
I was with my mate actually, and I said to him, I would just love to see United score more than 1 goal, and then the goal went.
It's because we didn't start Jesse Lingard. That's why.
Yeah, probably. And I don't know what's happened with United, but it seems to me they've got Solskjaer's message of get the ball forward quickly, because it's taken them ages to figure it out. Well,
they've got more pace with Martial. I mean, just having Martial back is a great bonus. And to be honest with you, I mean, they weren't amazing in that game. They just took the chances. But yeah, any other results that were kind of surprising for you today, or?
Well, Tottenham taking the lead. I thought Tottenham would lose, and I thought Kane might get, an assist or a goal. He got a goal, which I'm so happy about, because I virtually picked up 17 points today. So I've got Montoya to come in for Frederick.
You own Trent Alexander-Arnold. I've seen people in chat talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold. You own him as well. You got money tied up in him. Is he when he returns 1 point, for example, and he blanks, he's not getting assists. I mean, just in the stream today with Steve-O, every couple of minutes, Steve-O's ranting because Trent's put a sublime cross into the box and Firmino's missed a sitter. How many game weeks do you think people are going to wait before they start thinking about investing their money elsewhere over Trent Alexander-Arnold? Or do you think that that's nonsense and that he is one of the most potentially explosive defenders out there in the game?
I'll give you a comparison. Lundstrom, very cheap, and everyone thinks we'll put him in our team because he's cheap. The actual fact, he plays in midfield for Sheffield United.
Yeah.
And Alexander-Arnold, he may be his position in the team may be left back, but he actually plays left wing.
Yeah.
You know, because Mo Salah plays left inside forward.
Yeah.
So the reality is, you know, you can either have a cheap version.
Well, he plays right wing. Sorry.
Well, yeah, sorry, right.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a cheap version in Lundstrom, or you can have an expensive version in Alexander-Arnold. You're going to get more quality out of Arnold than you are of Lundstrom, but you know, at least that's across the season. They will give you attacking returns.
Well, I've seen people. I mean, Jordan Bowman saying, "Of course, it's nonsense," but I've actually seen people in chat, seen people in Discord upset about Trent Alexander-Arnold. Obviously, he picked up a yellow card. He's got 1 point. They're genuinely thinking about getting him out of the team. That. You know, it's a question that's being asked.
I wouldn't let him go.
I wouldn't. If I've got him in my team. If I've got him in my team, I wouldn't get him out now. Not now.
No, I've still got my staple 4 actually, or 5 I should say, which is Arnold, Salah, De Bruyne, Vardy, Kane. I haven't got rid of any of them.
Question though, I need to speak to a Liverpool fan. What's happening with Matip? Do I need to worry about Matip? That's a question. Or do you think Lovren's going to be is it going to be a 1 week wonder? I hope so, because I've got him in and I don't want to have to worry about transferring him out either. Otherwise I can rely on Rico.
This is what I do think. I think Klopp trusts Matip over all of his defenders alongside Van Dijk. For the simple reason, Van Dijk does all the skillful work, Matip does all the donkey work that goes unnoticed. Yet Klopp notices it, so he has him in the team. Yeah.
I think that's the strongest centre back pairing. Him and Van Dijk. I think Matip, Van Dijk are the best ones, and I certainly hope that is the case. Thank you ever so much, Stein. You got to find any final thoughts before we move on to Dereco? Hang on, take cover, Steve-O. God, jeez. Under your table, mate. Under your table. Sorry, Stein. Carry on.
Yeah, if there's anyone out there who's panicking about their premium buys, just remember this. Every player in the game has highs and lows. Everyone's lows is the same. 1 point, 2 points, 0 points, -1 points.
Yeah.
Except for your expensive buys, they haul. So don't let go of them.
Before you go, Stein, is 40 points too much to catch the top 4? You're 40 points behind 4th spot.
No.
Is it too much?
28 game weeks, yeah?
I'm 40 points. Sorry, I didn't get that, Steve.
You're 40 points as of yesterday behind 4th spot in our Cash Mini League. Is it too many points to catch?
What, 40 points away from where?
Fourth.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. No, it's not. We're in game week 10, Steve. We got 28 game weeks. If we can do this in 10 game weeks, what can we do in the last 10 game weeks? I always say that to everyone. Think about the last 10 game weeks, because there's no recovery after that.
Well, I think what we've seen, especially in recent weeks, especially this week, we've seen people get 90 odd points, 99 points from 3 Leicester players. I'm not going to say this is going to be a common thing, but certainly we are seeing massive. We've seen someone jump from 700,000 to 70,000. We've seen someone jump from 500,000 to the top 80,000. We've seen massive jumps.
Yeah.
And the point being is that you know, if you are very fortunate, you can make massive leaps. It's a case about being fortunate and having the right players. Jumping on Vardy now, is it wise?
Yes.
His points are behind him, but his fixtures are looking very enticing.
The thing with Vardy, he was put in my team right at the beginning for the simple reason that I thought he's got a reputation for scoring against the top 6, and I thought I want one striker in my team that, you know, can score against Liverpool, Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal. I mean, he hasn't so far this season, but what he has done is he's hauled a few times, so I'll take that.
Yeah, definitely. Stein, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you for coming on the show tonight. Cheers, buddy.
No worries. Cheers a lot.
Cheers, time.
Thanks,
Speak
bye.
soon. That's insane. Well, we've got shots fired, and we had sirens on. Unbelievable. Jeff saying the FPL police are on their way. Tomori or Lundstrom this week. Who have Chelsea got
Lundstrom.
next? Lundstrom because he's playing attacker. Shaban says hello YouTube. Hello anyone that's watching us on Mixer or Twitch. Luck when you're losing, skill when you're winning. Well, it's a bit of both, isn't it? Show me the money. It's a bit of luck and skill. You make your own luck, ultimately. I mean, I got lucky this week.
While Firetog is there, all I'll say is I did compliment your conversation that you had with Jason last night. It was absolutely superb. It had me gripped. I did mention it on the Super Sunday show, but Firetog, while you're there, I really enjoyed your conversation. Let's bring on Dereco, Jason, because he's had a very good day, especially with one specific player.
Dereco, good evening. You're on the Sunday surgery with myself and Steve. How are you doing this evening?
How's it going, lads? Doing very well. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I'm just getting your team up on the screen now. And
the cells. Come on. When did you bring in the
listen,
cells?
I've come to gloat about my differential picks, okay?
Yeah, you carry
listen,
on.
I've had a few bad weeks, but the last couple have been decent. Yeah, Lascelles, Connolly, they've paid off, to be honest. I trusted, obviously, Lascelles over Aurier. And obviously, I didn't play Gilbert because he was playing City. So yeah, it's paid off. It's paid off, lads. Obviously,
What made you bring in the cells, though?
I can't actually, I know for a fact I was looking for a cheap defender.
Whereabouts are you in the Kashmir League? Sorry to interrupt you, but whereabouts in the Kashmir? Because I'm going to bring, because I'm not using that screenshot because it's not the right size.
Sorry, yeah.
49th.
I think yesterday I was 49th, yeah.
Right, 49th for the Cash League. Let's find you. Sorry. Carry on.
Your transfers yesterday, you brought in Lascelles for Otamendi and De Bruyne in for Mahrez.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to do.
So go on. Why Lascelles?
Just a differential pick. I think last time I came on, it was just me and Jason, and I told him that I'm gonna have to start going for differential picks, and that's what I've been doing.
But Newcastle.
Yeah, just I don't know. I have to do something different. A couple gambles here and there. If they don't pay off, it's not like I'm gonna win the Challenge League anyway. So,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I must admit
it's jammy, isn't it? It's jammy, obviously, but it is what it is.
I don't know. I mean, I could go over this a billion times, and I'm boring myself talking about it. But when I was doing my wildcard draft, Lascelles was someone that I actually brought up to maybe cover Newcastle because of their, they're no idiots. They're not exactly conceding thousands of goals. They're just conceding the odd goal here and there. They've had, 3 clean sheets this year. And I thought, do you know what? Lascelles at 4.4, guaranteed starter. Why not play him in every home game? I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, fair play to you for bringing him in. But getting the goal. I mean, what were you doing when you found out that he scored a goal?
Sorry, you cut out. I can't hear anything.
Of course I did. What were you doing when Lascelles scored the goal, Dereco?
Sorry, you cut out again.
What were you doing? What were you doing when Lascelles scored the goal?
Yeah, I was at work and I just saw it on my phone. I was happy, but then obviously they lost the clean sheet. I didn't know they get so many points for scoring, to be honest with you, for defenders. 6 points for a goal.
Yeah, because they don't do it that often. That's why.
Yeah, I should have known because Alonso obviously scored last week for me as well. Little gloat there.
Alonso, yeah, good point. What? Obviously, as a Chelsea fan, what made you get him in?
Honestly, I don't remember. I would be lying. Obviously, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I know when he plays, he's got obviously good attacking threat. Always has. The only problem with him is I don't know when he's going to expire in terms of when Emerson's coming back, because defensively he's still so suspect. That's my biggest worry with Alonso. But yeah.
What was that, Steve?
273 people watching us at the moment.
What? Really?
Absolutely.
That's 279.
That's Dereco, because Dereco's talking about Lascelles. That's why.
Oh, right.
Bringing her along.
There you go. That's gonna be the what's it? What they call it? Clickbait. We have Lascelles on the front. But no.
Are you, Dereco? You're 49th.
Yeah.
You're probably going to move up, a couple of places tonight, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think that fourth spot can be caught?
Mate, I'm only going for first, to be honest with you.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I know I'm like 96 points off first. I don't know how many I'm off fourth though.
Right, it doesn't. Let me just do quick maths here.
Where's the fourth?
You're about
80?
60-ish.
Oh, 60. Okay,
60, 70-ish. Yeah.
It can be caught.
I've still got all my chips except for my first wild card. It definitely can be caught, in my opinion. You just have to get lucky, and as I said, now at this point, I feel like I have to just go for a lot of differential. Not all have a fully differential team, but just have a few here and there that are going to get me up the ladder. Yeah. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Having a few differentials in your team. If you're,
it's got to be done. In fact, it was Keyboy last night that came on with Jason, and he made the point that if you have a team which has, for instance, key players, for example, in his case, Sterling, De Bruyne, Mane, Vardy, Robertson, have like highly owned kind of premium assets, and then just basically build your team around them with like the odd differential. I think that's the best way to go, and I think what you've done is an ideal scenario. I mean, again, well done for picking Lascelles. The fact that you got a goal is just an absolute bonus.
Yeah, it's lucky, obviously, but that's what we're going to need. What I'm going to need personally from this point out is taking risks and getting lucky. I feel like there's no point in me trying to play it safe anymore because I'm already behind everyone pretty much, and that's just how I feel. So I'm just going to keep making crazy decisions, and hopefully they pay off. Obviously, the odds are that it won't pay off most of the times, but if it does, then...
I mean, what I used to do and what I really should be doing is looking at teams around me and kind of going, well, they've got X players that I own. What differentials could I have on them which are making logical sense? And in your case, I don't want to keep banging on about it, but Alonso and Lascelles are pretty solid picks, to be fair. Yeah. They're pretty solid picks as differentials. And so long as they're, picking up the points here or there, whereas others won't own them, I think just stick with it. It's just the attacking players. Players like Jimenez, as an example, would be a nice differential to have. Lacazette could be somebody to go into. I mean, the difficulty is, of course, is that doing this live, people could just be like, oh, Dereco's gone and brought in Jimenez. I might just copy him and block him off. Who knows? I don't have a clue how many people actually listen to the show that are part of the Cash Mini League that actually do decide to block off people. I don't think there are many people that do that, but it could happen. But I think with your team at the moment, Nick Pope perfectly fine, Lascelles we've already discussed to death, Alonso perfectly.
I'm going to warn you now, Steve-O. Don't bring in Vardy because I'm going to probably block you off for doing the same.
Me too.
There you go. I'm warning you now before anything happens.
I'm ahead of both of you now, so I'm going to be watching every single move you guys make.
Without going into major details, the other team that you have, whereabouts is it ranked now? Roughly?
Which other team?
Your sister's team.
Oh, my sister's team. It's my sister's team. I think it's around between 10 and 5k.
Very nice.
Yeah. I don't really...
It's her first season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's her first season. I don't really help. Yeah. First season.
Oh, she's doing better than you.
Yeah, way better.
But that goes down well at the dinner table.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. You got any final words before we bring on our next guest?
Just want to say, now I've got a second chance with the new league. I don't know if is it been announced or whatnot, but I've got a second chance to come first.
What new league is that?
Has it not been?
You're about the members.
Yeah.
The members league.
Oh,
Ah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
of course,
sorry, I didn't know if it was like a secret
No,
or not.
yeah. So the members
Halfway
league.
through.
Yeah. So the members league.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Manager of the month and all that. No, it'd be exciting to see how many people we get in that, and but that's just another bit of an admin headache that I've got to worry about. But yeah,
More viewers, more headache. That's how it goes. But it's good. It's good, man. The channel's growing steadily. It's very nice. Hopefully you'll double in size by the start of the next season.
Well, thank you.
Should be nice.
Thank you for your kind words.
Well, obviously, sky's the limit.
You are in our outro video. Don't know if you know that.
I know. Oh, of course. It's an honor, honestly. Believe me.
There you go. And
especially start of the season, I was in here every day because I wasn't working much and I didn't have anything to do. But recently, I've been in and out more because I've got a lot of stuff to do. But yeah, trust me, I'm always here, man. If you don't see me all the time, I'm here. I'm listening in the background. Trust me.
It's cool, and you're doing really well. And well, I got to catch you, and I'm confident because I don't think the sales are going to get you 10 points every week.
Listen. That's your aim now, to come above me.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I am going to make sure that you lot do not finish the season above me. That's my aim.
Yeah.
And then first place is obviously cherry on top.
Absolutely. You're in London, aren't you, Dureko?
Yeah, I'm in London.
Well,
sorry, I know the slang and the
no, when
accent comes out.
No, it's fine, mate. No, when we do an Elite FPL meetup, it's most probably going to be down in London. So hopefully, we can get you on board for that.
Yes, 100%.
But yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Thank you ever so much, Dureko.
Have a lovely evening, lads.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers, buddy. Excellent. It's nice to have one of the old guard come back on after it seems so long ago, pre-season. Just getting this Discord off the ground and getting the callers in.
I know we're going to be discussing this next week, but I do find it mad that there's a lot of people that are regulars that only just joined us in pre-season, which was only a few months ago, and it feels like they've been with us for years. It just says a lot about the viewers than it does about. Well,
it just says a lot about the streams, the amount of streams we've been doing as well, because it feels like years, but it's not been that long. But we've done a lot of streams between then and now. Like you even said, didn't you? Wasn't it like 64 streams or something?
Oh yeah, 64 streams in 84 days we did. But I think it's now maybe potentially after yesterday equaled itself out.
No, excellent. Let's bring.
This is the future of. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep banging on about it. It's just the future of what we're going to be doing. It's a fact, and I'm going to enjoy it. And people are going to be part of the ride and
this. We're here to stay, guys. We're not going anywhere, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we just want you to be part of it and come and join us on our journey. Get in Discord, talk to us. Share with us how you're getting on in FPL. Are you flying high in the top 10k? Are you like Steve-O in 1.5 million? Are you like me and just
2.5?
2.5? No, don't be silly. You probably feel like it's 2.5, but I think I'm going to be around about the million mark at the moment myself. So I'm looking forward to shaping up on that. Well, let's get our next guest on the show.
I was going to say Gabe Babe. I don't recognise the name. It'd be interesting to see a different name.
I spoke to Gabe last night. Gabe Babe.
Oh right.
But we'll bring him in. We'll bring Gabe in. All of you guys are going to come in, so don't worry about it. Gabe, good evening. You're on the Sunday Surgery. Welcome back to the show. I spoke to you yesterday. How you doing? How's your Sunday doing? You got to unmute yourself, Gabe. Are you there, Gabe? And a 3, and a 2, and a 1. He's not there. Right, let's bring in Lewis. Good evening, Lewis.
As well.
Good evening, Lewis. We'll get Gabe in. He's probably just gone AFK for a few minutes. Lewis, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How you doing, man?
I'm super, mate. I've been saved. My game week's been saved.
You had 20 players playing today, and none of them did anything for you. How are you feeling after that? You must be absolutely gutted.
Oh, yeah. It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah.
You've got. How are you feeling about it? More importantly, about Martial?
Happy to be honest, because I brought him in on a punt last week, -4. I brought in him and Bolly for Robertson and McGinn. I'm happy with that, but I couldn't have predicted the Bolly injury. That's a bit frustrating, but I mean, a -2 penalty miss, like, I don't know. I'm just happy he got a goal. I'm happy he didn't get minus points. I would have been fuming.
It's no, I think that now you've got him in, you know, he's going to be in your team to stay, isn't he now?
Yeah,
that price
definitely.
point. What's your thoughts on? Well, you've been lucky with having Soyuncu points off your bench. Obviously, that Wolves defense looked pretty tatty, didn't it?
Honestly, I didn't watch the game or see the goal or anything, so I'm not sure. But all I know is they play 5 at the back, and sometimes they're very defensive. So I thought, you know what, a little punt on a Wolves defender might not be that bad for the fixtures.
Well, I think, I mean, looking at your team, you're going to be thinking about getting Bolly out now. You got any transfers in mind for him? Otamendi, perhaps?
Has it been like confirmed like for how long he's out for?
He's out.
He's apparently
broke his ankle.
Broken his leg. Or
Has
his
he?
ankle or whatever.
Wow. So... Yeah, I'm gonna have to get him out then. Honestly, I'm not sure. I was looking at Tomori, but I don't know. I don't like the Chelsea defense. I was looking at Peters for the Burnley's got some good fixtures coming up.
Good asset.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not sure.
It's. I mean, I think personally, you've got that. How much money have you got in the bank?
0.3. So no room for anything really.
Yeah, you've got Sancho already. Yeah, it's a bit of a tough price point, isn't it?
Yeah. To be honest, I might just leave him for a bit and like just work on like other transfers somewhere else. I'm not sure what I want to do with my team yet, but I've got pretty much every player in my team plays. Like I don't really need like another defender. Like him being out isn't that.
Well, because you got Lundstrom,
yeah,
and Soyuncu.
Yeah.
It's that Cantwell.
Anyway.
It's that Cantwell as well, isn't it? It's like.
Yeah, that's a bit annoying having him, but I don't know. I'm just happy for him to just sit there and do nothing.
Well, you're set up for a 3-4-3, aren't you? Let's be honest with you. You're set up for a 3. So you don't really want to be wasting any money in your fifth midfielder.
No, definitely not.
So yeah, I think that you could possibly look at maybe you've got 1 or 2 free transfers.
One.
Yeah, because obviously people bringing up Mendy now as being an asset that they want to get hold of. I just think
I was actually looking to get Mendy in last week. I'm glad I didn't now because I would have been really mad at the assist getting taken off him.
Well, yeah, but still, you did get a clean sheet. I think that's an interesting one, really. Steve-O, what would you do if you were in his position here with this team?
Well, I'd just get rid of Bowley to free up funds, bring in I don't know, whoever. Rico is just a simple example. Rico.
Yeah, Rico. That'll free up. How much is Bowley? Isn't he like 5.5
mil? Yeah, that'll save. I'll have 1.1 if I do that.
That'd be nice. You'd have 1.1 in the bank. Yeah, I'd probably do that. Rico seems to be, he's a set piece taker. He's in a
racking up a few clean sheets.
Yeah, I know. Bournemouth, Ramsdale, and Rico. Who'd have thought it? But no, certainly. That's not a bad transfer.
Are you happy genuinely with Martial moving forward? And more importantly, would you recommend others to bring him in?
Martial's got good fixtures up until game week 15. I think game week 14 he plays Villa at home. Like for the next 4, I'm 100% keeping him in no matter what. After that, obviously it depends how well he plays. But yeah, I would recommend other people getting him in. I'd rather have him over like Ayoze Perez. I've seen people getting in. I'd rather have Martial, definitely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah. I think that was a bit of a flash in the pan for Perez. Down to 10 men, Southampton. I think he's not going to be looking at those sort of returns again. And yeah, Martial, he's back in that United team. United seem to play better with him in their team. Him, Rashford, and Dan James, I think are the way forward for United. I really do.
Yeah.
Poor Greenwood, all the way through Martial's injury, not really given any opportunity. But now that's all forgotten about. Now Martial's back, and could be a smart move having him in and going forward.
Definitely. Still a young lad though, Greenwood. He's got bags of potential. I think he'll be good in the future, 100%.
No, definitely. I think looking at your team, do that Barley transfer, and Otamendi should be okay going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we look forward to chatting to you about your team next week. And thank you for coming on.
All right, cheers, lads. Thank you.
Any final thoughts?
Only final thoughts is I'm a bit disappointed with Aubameyang. That's it, really.
Yeah, Aubameyang.
I got him in for the Bournemouth game, and he's blanked ever since. So I don't know. I'm not looking to get him out, but it's on the cards.
Well, yeah. I mean, are you one of these people that are going to be jumping onto Jamie Vardy for these fixtures?
No, I don't. I was looking at Vardy. I've been looking at Vardy pretty much every week, but I just something about him. I just don't want to get him. I'm not sure.
Why don't you want to get him?
Because I just feel like as soon as I get him in, he's gonna start blanking, and Maddison will get a few goals. Yeah.
Jason made this point about me last season about my bias towards not owning Vardy in the sense of because he failed for me last season, that I just don't trust. I mean, even this season, I'm not going to lie. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Leicester assets, their goals come from everywhere. Even Friday night, I was proved that right. It's just the fact that Vardy, yes, he got a hat-trick. It was against 10 men of Southampton. You know, we can't sit here and find out what would have happened if it had stayed at 11 men. You know, who knows? But the point being is that at the end of the day, their goals came from everywhere. It was only Vardy of all of them that was highly owned, and Maddison with that one goal. You know, other than that, the reality is that Vardy hat-trick, you know, I'm not going to complain about it. At the end of the day, he got a hat-trick, but I understand where you're coming from, but I just think that you may want to.
He looks essential, he does.
Yes.
And with the ownership now, it is a bit scary. But just to back that point before up even more about the points coming from everywhere, Chilwell, 19 points, 1 goal, 2 assists. It just proves it.
Right, interesting. All I'll say is thanks for coming on the show, Lewis, and hopefully game week 11 will get you back up there again.
Thank you, Lewis.
Hopefully. Cheers, lads.
Thanks for being back on the show. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Awesome.
Can we let's bring on Crazy Jack, because I wanted to ask him something.
Crazy Jack, let's bring him in. Good evening, Crazy Jack. Can you hear us? You're live on the Sunday Surgery.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear us?
Yeah, right. Yeah, good. You okay?
Yeah, not too bad. Super.
You came in last night. You've been coming on.
Hang on, Steve. Sorry to cut you short, but we need to ask him about the rugby.
Oh, don't you dare!
Cares about rugby? God Almighty!
Well, nah. You want me to swear?
My fiance is South African. She had it on today.
Oh, nah, please.
You can't be upset about that, though. They performed really well. They had a great game. It was such a close game.
Oh, it's not the performance.
It's the result, yeah.
I really wanted to be in the final, but I loved it. But saying that, though, if Wales lost to England in the final, I think I'll be suicidal right now.
That would be horrible. The bragging rights to be I can handle it. So
and every Six Nations be like, oh, we should beat the World Cup. Sorry, it's not about rugby. Sorry for that. Yeah.
No. I just had to ask because I'm not a massive rugby fan, but yeah, I just we had it on the TV earlier on today, and as soon as I saw you're there sitting in the waiting room, I thought I'd better bring it up. But sorry, Steve, you were in full flow there. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying, you're a Crazy Jack. You've been coming on week after week regarding Lacazette. The second he starts playing, he's going to start banging in the goals. He got you an assist today. How are you feeling after that?
Oh, he's warming up. He's warming up. I still believe in the Lacazette. Yeah, still returning. He has just come back. He's still returning. He's still yet He's still getting points if he starts a game, and I reckon he's slowly going to go into the radar, which is really nice because everyone's going to go rushing for Vardy.
Do you think that it's worth doing a straight swap from for Aubameyang owners, Aubameyang to Lacazette, or do you think just hold for now?
It's like the argument with Salah to Mane. Like you would save a lot of money. Lacazette's going to be up front. Lacazette is a beast. He's been consistent. He's yet to not get points. Granted, it was an assist today, but
you've got King there. Yeah. Would you not consider? Have you got any money in the bank?
I have 0.1 now because I made my transfers today. I got Salah to Mane, Otamendi to Mendy because I had to get rid of Otamendi.
Oh, see, I would have been asking you. I know, obviously, I don't know don't think I can see your bench, but again, I was going to bring up the question. Here we go, Matip on the bench. Matip, and you got Kelly there as well. Cantwell, some issues on your bench there, but no. But I was thinking, like, looking at King now. Were you saying about? Was it yourself that was saying that you're happy with King?
Yeah, I'm happy with King.
Yeah. King's kind of tying over penalty taker and all that. Yeah.
I'm happy with King.
Yeah, fair enough. Are you happy with? I'm not happy with Bournemouth attacking. Attacking wise though. I'm happy with their defense, but I'm not so happy with their defense. Sorry, with their attack. I've got Callum Wilson, and I'm thinking that's quite a bit of money tied up in Callum Wilson when you got Jamie Vardy, who's got a beautiful run of fixtures. Maybe I shouldn't downgrade Aguero. Maybe I should upgrade Callum Wilson. But anyway, talk us through. No. You've done your transfers. Otamendi to Mendy, and who was the other one? Sorry.
Salah to Mane. I had to do that.
Salah to Mane. So again, you compare it to Lacazette having the cheaper version, Aubameyang, Lacazette having Mane over Salah. I think that it's going to be not close between Salah and Mane. I think Mane's got the chance of outscoring Salah over the season. I know it sounds mad, but Salah's just not taking his chances, and Mane's more prolific.
Yeah, I watched the game today. Mane looked insane, and I was just thinking Salah's going to get a penalty. Eventually did, but I'm thinking to myself, am I really spending 12.4 million for a penalty taker?
You're spending $1 million, the best part of $1 million, just for the benefit of the penalties, basically.
Yeah, it's just like Mane just looks like a better player. Granted, they get penalties, but now I saved money, and now I can make the transfer, which was the main problem I had to deal with, which was Otamendi. What
is the actual issue with Otamendi? Because I kind of think that he's going to start the next game. Has anyone got any concrete verdict on Otamendi? Anyone in chat? Because he's not flagged, and he's not. I don't believe he's injured.
No, I think it's for me because Otamendi could have the risk of rotation. Whilst Mendy with Zinchenko out, he looks more solid, and Mendy is the better of the two, and he played like a winger, so for under 6 million you're gonna get an extra winger, and he actually looked really good, and he's playing for an insane team.
No, I agree. Mendy's top draw. Simon Bellamy says Otamendi isn't starting. He's dropped, says Newfell. Is he though? Is he dropped? Is he dropped? I mean, he's had a couple of bad games, but it's Pep.
He seems like third place, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he feels like he wants Stones.
But
then they could rotate, whilst I feel like Mendy will stick around for a bit. Especially because what's his name, Rodrigo or something's injured as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone nailed in that centre back position for City, is there? There's no one nailed in that centre back position, and whereas even Mendy's not. But you would say he's a bit more likely to start than anyone else, really. There.
Yeah. The most concrete and
bar Walker,
I want the coverage. I want a Man City defender coverage.
You don't want to go with Edison.
I'm happy with Pope.
Yeah.
I think Pope's doing well. He's getting a lot of save points. So and the next 4 fixtures aren't crazy. They're pretty good for them. So I'm happy with my Pope.
That's fair. It's a fair call. No, I mean, are you happy with your team overall?
Yeah, I'm happy with the team. I'm just gutted Otamendi didn't play. I would have had like a really good. Because right now the points are like quite spread out. Like if Matty played and Otamendi like say I had a City player that got 6 points, then my team did well overall. Like I wasn't expecting a clean sheet from Burnley.
Those fireworks still out, aren't they, Steve-O? Sorry. No, I completely agree. I mean, you've done those transfers. What made you do those transfers, like, today?
Mane's going up. It looks like Rico's going up, as well as Mendy. Because the plan is I want to get rid of Cantwell to get their Donker, so then I can get Kelly for Rico.
Den Donker, God. Is it game week 1 again? No, but it's fair.
It's just I want like because then it's with that my bench would be Lundstrom, Donker, and Rico, and like they're very good bench options.
Oh, they're stable kind of assets, aren't they, for the team? So yeah, fair enough. No, it's good points you make, and you've made your decision. You've got to stick with it now, and I think ultimately it's better than what you had before. So yeah, I think Mane is better than Salah at the moment going forward, and I think that Mendy is a lot better than Otamendi. So yeah, and you didn't take a hit, did you?
No, with those two.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah. So win-win. Thank you so much, Crazy Jack. And you got any final thoughts?
Watch out for Lacazette in the coming weeks.
Okay, I will do. Will do. Cheers, Crazy Jack.
Cheers to Knigs is asking, what is that noise about? Well, it's celebrating Show Me the Mane going top of the cash mini league. Let's bring back on Statman. Let's see if we can get a coherent conversation going, because we were in full swing about how to get into the top 4.
Yeah, Statman, you're on air live with us now on the Elite FPL Sunday Surgery. Are you there, Statman?
I am. Can you hear us this time?
Hey.
We can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Nice one.
Got your team up on the screen. Wow.
Dire.
How many points is this? Don't make me add it up.
39.
39. 39.
Talk me through your game week. Talk from Friday night. 9-0 Leicester. What did you think? Did you think this isn't going to be my game week when you saw that?
Well, I was just... I don't want to sound like everyone else, saying I think we'd all thought about bringing in Vardy and Leicester assets for the run of fixtures, but I just couldn't believe it. And then I'm looking around in the mini leagues and the cash leagues at who's got them in the ground. It was people on 50 points, man, on Friday night, wasn't there? It was just unbelievable. So it was a horrid start, and then you cling into the fact you've got 3 City assets and a home fixture against Villa, and you're thinking, they're counting their chickens too soon, because Aguero's going to do the same. I was really hopeful that Aguero's, going to back. He's got a cracking record against Villa, and we all expected him to start, and then I stayed up late to get the team news just so I could sleep easy, and then I see that he's benched, and I was just like, I didn't want to know the score in the morning. I just prayed that he wouldn't come on, and as you know, and as I know, he come on for the cameo, and just it was still, I would have had a shocking week though. I would have been short of 10 points if it had went to Sterling, or I would have been on about 50, so it wouldn't have been the best week anyway. So there's definitely more issues than Aguero. Yeah.
You gotta put this game week down to just bad luck. I mean, your team's not, but I mean, you double up with Norwich against United. You were hoping for something there, but
that was
why? I don't understand why you bench McGinn over Cantwell.
I just fancied him to do more, against.
But you're doubling up those. I mean, you're doubling up the risk with Norwich, aren't you? That's what I'm thinking. Like, have Pookie, but then have McGinn.
But Cantwell was more. Cantwell he missed a sitter, and then he had probably Norwich's. Well, this is before the goal. He hit a cracking shot from distance, which just got tipped over. Like, he looked more lively than Pookie, to be honest. So as I was watching it, I was quite hopeful. I had money on the fact that Norwich would score, Man U would score, and and they didn't play well in the first half. But towards the back end of the first half, they livened up a little bit, and then Cantwell gets pulled anyway, which I couldn't see why, because he looked like one of their better players. But I've been a bit stubborn with Cantwell and Pookie, and it was more for the past few fixtures, that had Bournemouth, then Man U, even going forward, we've got decent fixtures, but Brighton, Watford, and Everton. But I just
remind me,
they've run out on the.
Remind me, have you got your wild card?
Nah, I wish I did. That's long gone. Long gone. Don't rub it in, you.
Looks like a wild card team to me.
Shut up. Or a minus 24. No, I could easily take a minus. I could easily do a Jason
16.
And do a minus 20 tonight.
Let's do a 16. Let's do a minus 16.
But the biggest headache I've got for next week is what to do with Aguero. What am I going to do? I can't pull him out ahead of Southampton. He's going to end up starting and get a hat-trick, and I've just pulled him out for Vardy, who's going to blank against Palace. Like, what do we do with him?
Don't do that.
Do it.
If he plays 90 minutes on Tuesday, then you might have to.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you got an escape plan?
What, like delete my account and just turn off Discord for the rest of the season?
No, I mean getting rid of your dead wood in your team. I'm talking like Diop, Pookie, Cantwell, Kelly.
I know, but look at when I brought this
Montoya.
Is how I look going. But look at Brighton's fixtures. You know what I mean? Like I'm putting it like poker. I don't know if you play poker, right? You can play poker. You can be doing everything, folding the right hands to fold, playing the better hands, and you're getting beat by some numpty sitting at the left of you that's playing 2-7, and hitting a flush on the river.
Yeah, and that numpty's Jason in my case. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. It's the truth. I'm making all the logical decisions. I'm making all the right decisions. Well, so to speak, what would be the logical right decisions? Jason comes along. I'll just put Ramsdale and
exactly.
Having a laugh, Jason.
Minus
rubbish defensively.
What are you on about, Steve? Steve, that was a calculated decision. What are you on about?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Jason puts in Ramsdale and the team. They've gone and got 2 clean sheets. It's absolutely mental. And yet here's me that brings in, I don't know, Matt Ryan, who's been getting clean sheets, bonus points, everything.
Yep.
I get him in the team. Oh, nothing. Absolute. Okay, yesterday I'm aware he got bonus points, but you get the point. It's just laughable. So, unfortunately, I feel your pain, but I couldn't really care less because you're above me in the mini league. So, but talking of the mini league,
but like pretty much everyone's above you in the mini league, Steve.
Yeah.
No. Well, I can rub it back. There are shots fired both ways this end. It's not we can be mean when we want to be. No, but I'm looking at looking at your team. Like I'd be looking at doing some serious surgery in this team. I'd be thinking goodbye Pookie. I'd be thinking goodbye Cantwell, goodbye Kelly, goodbye Diop, and I'd be looking at bringing in. Well, I was looking at bringing Rico in.
Let me just address Tahir's point here. If you're consistently getting bad luck, then you're making the wrong decisions. I'm telling you now, the decisions that I'm making are perfectly logical. For example, Aguero captain this week was a perfectly logical decision.
Ramsdale essential, mate.
But nobody knew that Pep was going to bench him. Another one, Callum Wilson. I thought, right, everybody saw it on my Friday deadline hour. I said, there's an idea I've got in my head. I might do a -4 from Callum Wilson to Vardy and Pereira to Bowley. 500 million people said don't do it. And I was like, well, I don't really want to do it anyway. It's just a thought process because I believe that Callum Wilson will probably match Vardy's points. Is that my fault? No. It's just the simple fact that I thought, I've just done a wild card. Why on earth will I do a -4? Let's just stick with the plan I've got. And it is pure bad luck. The biggest one that I had was a couple of weeks ago. I don't want to keep banging on about it, but when Liverpool got a penalty, it was literally seconds after Salah came off with an injury. I had Salah as a differential. I think he was my captain. I can't remember. I think he may have been my captain. I can't remember now. But either way,
Penalty.
he
Yeah.
come off, and they get a penalty. And James Milner, that's completely out of my hands. You cannot say that I'm making bad decisions. The only thing I will say, and this is one thing I will hold my hand up for, as David Brent says, guilty, is that I haven't stuck with the history's captain choice. That's the only thing. I will not lie.
But you have. Was it not Aguero this week, Steve-O, though?
Yeah. Well, ironically, if it said go with Aguero or Salah. So I don't own Salah, so I went with Aguero. And unfortunately, and here's the funny thing as well, is that with Aguero in 6 matches against Aston Villa,
I think Mendy losing the assist. Mavid Dykle says the Mendy losing the assist and bonus points, Silva gaining the goal.
Yeah,
this is pure.
Yeah. We can laugh about it because it's just so ludicrous.
And there's me like praying to the FPL gods saying, that looked like it hit Silva. Please give it to Silva. And then you coming on like, what? It's been given to David Silva? What? What? And then you're looking on Twitter for like 20 minutes. It seemed like 20 minutes of anguish. Well, it's not updated on the game. It's not updated on the game. Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, there goes my Mendy bonus free.
It touched his little toe, and it's just fracking annoying.
But that's why we love the game. When I could watch it. I could watch that stream over and over again, and it just makes me feel better and better and better about FPL. No, back to your team though. Have you got any transfer? You got 2 transfer? You got 1 transfer? What's going on, Statman?
Just got the standard 1 this week.
When we were talking about Norwich, and we were talking about them being, this year's kind of, Pookie being kind of, well, Steve-O said Milivojevic, not Milivojevic, Mitrovic, sorry, like the Fulham, of last year. You think that? I mean, we were warning about Norwich players, and I'm just amazed you've retained Cantwell and Pookie.
Well, you've got to remember Cantwell's just bench. He's bench fodder if needed. I got him at 4.5.
But McGinn isn't. No one. McGinn should be ahead of Cantwell.
What, away to City or to Man U? Reckon? I would do that again. I would do that again next week. I think I would take Cantwell at home to Man U over McGinn away to City.
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree.
That's a logical one, isn't it? And Campbell.
Well, double up. Yeah, but you're doubling up on Norwich, aren't you? That's
doubling up on what I feel is the better fixture. It's like I wouldn't say I'm not going to double up and I'm going to take a player in a harder fixture just so that I've got a player in another game. Like City away is one of them. Is like the only game that would trump that. Do you know what I mean? If I've got a mid-range
City aren't exactly solid at the back. I mean, Edison masterclass again. And McGinn was at the heart of everything that Villa were doing. Like, I look at McGinn, he's such a playmaker. He's such a maestro.
He would have got us 1 extra point. It would have got me 1 extra point, Jason. Okay.
Oh yeah, okay.
And that was only because Cantwell got pulled, and Cantwell missed the sitter, and he was unlucky to get denied with a cracking save. So, like that's not me major. It's Pookie. Like I don't know what to do with him. Like, I know I should get rid of him, but But to upgrade him to Vardy, which would be the logical move, I've got to say goodbye to Aguero or Sterling. It's the only way I can fund it, and I can't do that ahead of Southampton at home. So therefore, I'm stuck with Pookie for another week. You know what I mean? And I'll have to, because next week, and I Diop and Montoya and these lot, they've been shocking, but Diop next week's got a home fixture against us, Newcastle. Montoya's got a home fixture at home to Norwich. So I've got to keep them to at least for 1 more game week for good home fixtures. And like you say, I can't get rid of one of the City lads to fund a Pookie upgrade with Southampton at home. So I'm stuck. I'm really stuck, to be honest. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do this week.
I see what you mean.
I'm looking at my lineup next week. It would be basically Henderson at home to Burnley. Diop at home to Newcastle, Montoya at home to Norwich. I play Tomori, Lundstrom at home to Burnley.
Yeah.
I go De Bruyne, Mane, Sterling in midfield, like a 4-3-3, and up top I'd have Abraham, Aguero, and Pukki, or play McGinn instead of Pukki away to Liverpool, home to Liverpool probably. But ideally, I want to get some Leicester in. Tielemans for me, I had him last season through that great.
What's Pukki at now?
6.9, but I got him in at 6.5, so you know it doesn't.
Who Bournemouth got next?
Bournemouth on Norwich.
Who Bournemouth got next? Sorry. Can you do
Man U at home?
I was thinking King.
Man U at home,
I was thinking King, Pukki the King, but yeah, it's.
I'm not a King, but like, what would you do? Like, I can wait next week because once after next week, City's fixtures turn a little bit, don't they? They've got like 4 hard games out of the next 6. They play Liverpool, Chelsea, Man U, and Arsenal. Like, and add Man U and Arsenal on the. Hey, Steven, the Germans are back. But
can't say that, mate.
I was thinking. Oh, come on.
No, it's carry on, mate. It's just a joke. Carry on.
All right.
Realistically, with Man City, if I was predicting, well, we will be predicting, but Liverpool away, 0-0, 1-1. Chelsea at home, Man City going to batter them. Let's go with, say, something like 3. Lampard will play to open in that game, and I think that that will end up like 3 or 4 for Man City. Newcastle away, whatever. Let's just look at the hard games. Man United at home, it's a local derby. It'll probably end up a very close game like it normally does. And then Arsenal away, 5, 6, 7. So really, keeping Man City assets is probably a very, very good thing. To be honest with you, I just think it's the deadwood, like we've just been talking about Pukki. As an example, I just think and you definitely can't get in Jimenez.
I could. I'm just not. Like, I watched a bit of the Newcastle Wolves game, and I'm still not really sold on them, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm not. I don't fancy jumping on that one myself, but yeah. What about like Aguero? What about Aguero down to Vardy and then Pukki up to? I'd have a fair bit of cash left then.
I mean, we'll be here all night.
Lacazette, could you do that?
This is what I need to sit and do. I need to sit down and like chop it up and figure out who needs to go.
Wait to Tuesday. If Aguero plays a good part of the game against Southampton on Tuesday, then you've got a very good reason to downgrade Aguero. Before, I think.
Will you be? If he plays.
If he play,
because he got less than Pukki this week. We're griefing Pukki, but if Aguero's coming on for 15 minutes.
No, I agree. I know. I mean, but we need to kind of look logically at this, and Aguero is. You're in a great position. You're different to me because I don't have Sterling. You've got Aguero and Sterling, so you downgrading Aguero makes a lot more sense than me downgrading Aguero because you've got De Bruyne, Sterling. I think you're less. You're still going to be in for some good points from City. I think that and De Bruyne and Sterling are pretty not nailed. I wouldn't say the word nailed, but they are going to get more minutes than Aguero. So I think that he could be the perfect avenue for you to upgrade your team. And I'm not just talking Pukki, I'm talking Cantwell as well. I mean, if this was my team, I'll wait till Tuesday. If Aguero plays a good portion of it, I'll be going, bye-bye Aguero, bringing in Vardy, goodbye Pukki, bringing in maybe Jimenez. Yeah, and then possibly looking at elsewhere at Cantwell in future weeks. But I mean, that would be what's going through my mind.
Yeah, I feel you.
But yeah, thank you ever so much anyway for joining us tonight, Statman, and hopefully we on the preview on Thursday we'll speak to you again and you can talk us through what you've done.
Yeah, definitely, lads. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, Kev.
Cheers, Kev.
Let's bring on one final caller, Jace.
Well, let's do to Gabe and Chicken. Let's get both of them on. Let's go Gabe first because Gabe's been waiting. I know Gabe, you had your mic muted last time we tried to bring you on. Are you there, Gabe? Good evening, Gabe. Can you hear us? You got your mic muted again. I know you can talk because you spoke to me last night. Okay, let's bring in Chicken Tikka Masala. Hey, Charlie, how you doing?
Yeah, evening, Jace. How are you?
I'm okay. Not too bad. Steve-O's a bit better than me, aren't you, Steve-O?
Yeah.
You're loving life, aren't you, Steve?
Evening. Right. God knows how far up in the Cash Mini League at the moment. Whereabouts are you again?
Fifth? I was 5th or 6th, but I think I've gone down because some jammy
last night.
Some jammy person got Connolly coming off their bench.
Who's that?
I can't remember what his name is, but he's got Connolly coming off.
88 points.
Yeah, 8 points, 2 assists.
I'm gonna ask you again. I know I know you said last night, but Vardy captain. What on earth made you captain him?
It was literally last seconds. It was either Sterling or De Bruyne or Vardy, and I just thought, you know what, I'll just captain Vardy.
Charlie, are you on about the guy below you?
Yeah, below me, yeah.
He ain't getting Connolly.
Oh, is he not?
No.
Oh, right, that's all right then.
Hudson-Odoi got 0 points. That's what he got. He got a yellow
right.
card.
I thought he had Bolly or someone.
No. You are not getting. Sorry, he is not. It is just a name checking. Mika Haju, MC Gangster Daddy. But no, he's definitely not getting Connolly points, I can assure you now.
Right, that's all right then. I thought he was.
Yeah, sorry. Vardy captain, what made you captain him?
Yeah, it was literally, like I said, it was either out of Sterling, De Bruyne or Vardy, and I just thought, you know what, because the last 2 weeks my captain's done nothing. I just thought, why not put it on Vardy?
Just like that.
Yeah.
God, when your luck's in, it's just ridiculous.
Yes. About time, because last 2 weeks, like I said, I got 32 points, 35 points, so it's about the time I had a good game week. So yeah.
You say that, but when I was listening to the stream not last night, but this morning, whatever, I'm thinking to myself, but you've moved up to 5th. You're not having that much of a bad season. I mean, if I look at your game week history, I know it's not the Cash Mini League rank, but you went from 50,000 down to 131,000, 194,000. Come on, Charlie. I mean, admittedly, your highest rank this season.
Hello?
What's that? Sorry, you cut out.
Steve-O, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Steve-O. You'll check your mic.
Yeah, you might have muted.
Talk again, Charlie?
Hello?
And again?
Hello?
And again?
Hello?
That's quite cool. I'm putting another visualizer at the top while Steve-O does that. Talk again?
Hello?
That's quite cool, that. And again?
Hello?
There you go, cool. What do you reckon, chat? Do you reckon that looks better, having them top and bottom? I think that's better. I've just been thinking, over the last 5 minutes, just thinking, probably possibly put it top and bottom. Anyway, Steve-O, we're going to try and work out what's going on with your sounds. Bear with me one moment. Do apologise, guys. Steve-O, we're going to try and bring you back on Skype and find out what's going on. Don't know what's happened there. Just bear with me one moment. Give him a call back. And it must be his microphone. Something happened with his microphone. It's a bit distracting. It's not. No, can't hear you, Steve-O. Need to go into your audio settings on Skype and find out what microphone's selected. Or make sure the button's not pressed on your microphone. Is it flashing? If it's flashing, it means your mic's muted. It's not. Is it lighting up? Yeah, it is. It is. Okay. Then you need to check to see if it's your default on Skype. Go into the audio settings on Skype and find out. Anyway, what's apparently people saying it's a bit off. It's a bit off-putting the visualizer, but I don't know. I think I like it myself. Have you seen the visualizer yet, Charlie?
No, I haven't. No, I was watching the stream for like the first bit, and then I just been on my phone there.
Anyway, well, hopefully we'll get Steve-O to sort his mic out. Let me just do a quick test, and let's see if we can hear. You can't hear him on Discord, no? That is very strange. Then I do not know. Don't know what the issue is. I'm at loss. Anyway, we're pretty much near the end of the stream anyway at the moment. Maybe what I'll do is after the stream's finished, I'll quickly connect to his laptop because I need to sort out a few things anyway, and we can look at that as well. Steve-O, just nod your head if you're okay with that. Well, no, you're not okay with that. Okay, fine. Anyway, I think we'll call it there, guys. Thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. Been a great support from all of you guys in the show, on Twitch, on Mixer, if you're watching on Mixer, and anywhere else, YouTube, yeah, our main platform. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the subscribes, for the. Steve-O normally does the admin. If you like the show, hit the like button, and just to show your support. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Have you got any final thoughts, Charlie?
Just keep up the amazing work.
I'm just seeing what you've got as your your profile picture. Yeah, I see that. Yeah. Okay. Cheers for being on the show. Thank you for all our guests, and we look forward to the show tomorrow night. I think, we're back tomorrow night with on 8 o'clock Monday night to do the review game week 10, and we look forward to seeing you then. Cheers, guys.
Just of interest, whereabouts are you? Not in the world, but are you near like an industrial machine or something? It's very 2 seconds. Just ask a couple of questions. I just needed to get the door for a second.
No
Sorry.
problem,
This is what happens when you're live.
What's going on? Not a lot really. I'm waiting to go to gym. What about yourself? Live on YouTube doing a stream.
Why do you feel that you're constantly changing your teammate? Is it just there's just
I'm
so
hearing
many ideas?
So many ideas, so many different perspectives. I blame Brett Mollison for his 5 at back, because when you see my new team,
wow.
Brighton home, they couldn't buy a goal in the last season.
Well, I don't know. Dan's got Glenn Murray. I think he'll have a word to say about that.
I'm detecting possibly a German accent. I'm probably completely way out. But where are you calling us from?
South Africa.
On the first day, I literally just typed in FPL, like first draft, and yours came up like first. So I thought, I'll watch one of the live streams when it comes on. And then I thought, this is a bit long, isn't it? About 2 hours in. And then 3 hours later, well, an hour later, I was like, yeah, these seem alright, you know. Steven's not that bad.
I have one question for you. I want you to predict the order of the Elite FPL ranking. So, like, who do you think will finish first, second, and third out of y'all three this season?
So it's certainly no disrespect to Dan, but it's certainly going to be between me and Jason. And right now, as it stands, I'd go with Jason because my history suggests that I'm going to be having a bad season.
So I've got the 5 at the back. I just see a lot of value there. I feel like if I don't have Salah, I can spread the money elsewhere and maybe get the points another way.
All the teams now, except for obviously Salah and Sterling, these players, a lot of players are going to change towards the start of the season, just because of new transfers, injuries that could happen, and all of that. So for me to tell you now, like personally right now, I'd say definitely if Tammy Abraham or Batshuayi are cheap, I'd get one of them, just because I don't care about the Man United. We can score against them at least 2 or 3.
Hey guys, this season we're using Discord. It's a text and voice application where you can talk all things FPL with fellow community members. You can post your team in the Rate My Team, talk in the general chat, you can look at transfer news, look at awesome GIFs, sign up for our Cash Mini League, look at our previous podcasts, and even join us live on air in one of our streams. We look forward to seeing you guys. Link is in the description, or look at the code on screen.